This video is the first part in a series of 10 where I'm going to talk about sexlessness in marriage. In each of the 10 parts, I'm going to dismantle one accusation that has specifically targeted wives as the ones responsible whenever there's a breakdown when it comes to sex. Each one of the accusations that you'll hear in this series is going to expose how the responsibility gets transferred from the stronger vessel to the weaker vessel in order to make her the scapegoat who's forced to carry the entire responsibility for the marriage that's got little to no sex, while the real problem gets ignored. Hi there, my name is Lillian. Welcome to Shrewd Wife Life. On my channel, I talk about how to tell the difference between a husband who's broken and dysfunctional versus the dangerous wolf in sheep's clothing who's pretending to be dysfunctional. Let's get started. If you're married to a wolf, these are the accusations you've likely been absorbing for years. You've heard them in sermons, in marriage seminars, and from counselors, and in books and blogs and podcasts, and even some well-meaning friends. These accusations have got you second-guessing your discernment and blaming yourself for having a female body that responds to sin exactly the way God designed it to. You know how you'll know if you've been affected by them? You're worse off now than when you first got married. Because for the majority of the marriage, you've been trying to reconcile what your heart and spirit knows is wrong with what religion and traditions are telling you is right. In this first part, we're going to look at the accusation that says, the reason marriage becomes miserable is because women stop giving men sex. Let's think about what this accusation is really saying. It's saying that, well, first of all, it's not talking about the marriage at all. It's a man making a complaint. And what that complaint really means is, you are making me miserable because you won't give me sex. Secondly, it's saying that the wife's body alone, just her physical body, her flesh, with the man who's making this accusation, what he's saying is that the only thing holding his happiness together in the marriage is what he can get from her body. So what that means for her is that any of her worth and value are tied to what she's able to offer from her skin and genitals. In his worldview, her body is the only gift that counts. Her insight doesn't matter. Her presence doesn't matter. Her emotional life doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the access to her body that he feels entitled to. So when this kind of husband reads the verse, when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing, he reshapes it to fit his appetite of consumption. He believes God meant that the good thing is sex on demand, not the one-flesh connection, not her emotional attachment to him, not the covenant design of the one-flesh relationship that God actually intended. Listening to this kind of teaching has trained wives to believe that their bodies exist to regulate a man's happiness and enjoyment in life. It conditions husbands to believe that sexuality is proof of submission and respect, and that a wife who's sexually available and compliant is what validates his manhood. There's other accusations that sound like this one too. They sound like a wife's refusal to have sex is the ultimate act of cruelty, or the ultimate emasculation of a man is when his wife refuses sex, or good men just want to feel like men again. I'll come back to this idea of good men later. You know how they say the issue is never the issue? Well, when you hear these kinds of accusations, the issue's not the issue. It's not really about sex. What's really being displayed is the manifestation of his heart. Words prove what's overflowing out of the heart. Matthew 12, verse 34. What he's proving is that the covenant has already collapsed, or it was never there to begin with. Before she ever accepts or rejects any of his sexual advances. The one-flesh relationship has already been severely compromised because of his intentions and what his purpose is for the bride in his marriage. In God's design, he never intended for the head, who is the stronger vessel, to make the body, the weaker vessel, carry the entire sexual equilibrium of the marriage. God placed the man in the responsibility of the headship, just like Christ. And Christ is never the bride. He is always the head who invests and takes responsibility. The body was created to respond to love that she's experiencing from the head. If there's nothing being invested into the body, then she can't respond with something out of nothing. The true purpose behind this accusation is that a wife is supposed to self-deceive. She does that by inventing a lie that says she has received and experienced love from her husband. But here's the thing. Husbands are commanded to emulate Christ. Ephesians 5, verse 29. Christ never asks his body to lie or live in self-deception. In a covenant relationship, sex was never meant to be a payment that's owed. It's a physical seal of a life that's shared. Genesis 2:24 says the man and the woman become one flesh, not a series of transactions. When a woman's body becomes a currency of exchange, the feminine heart pulls back to survive. It's a false teaching that tells a wife to have sex anyway, even though her heart has pulled away. It replaces a one-flesh union with a transaction. It trains a wife to measure her worth by her husband's sexual gratification, and a husband to measure his worth by her compliance. Neither of those are a demonstration of God's design. His plan is for the interdependence that's created from masculine investment that draws a willing feminine response. The red pill world and the church world fit like a hand in glove. One says men deserve submission, and the other says wives owe sexual access. It's different packaging with the same toxic outcome. Both deconstruct the intimacy of relationship into a base level contract. I don't want to sound like I'm casting dispersions on anyone's sex life. I'm not. If that's the kind of sex life you want and it's working for you, great. But if you got married and your husband wasn't upfront about his expectations when it comes to sex, if he wasn't honest that his masculine desires would take priority over yours, or that his was going to be the standard and yours was going to be optional, then he deceived you. When it comes to marriage in God's kingdom, sex isn't a power struggle. It's prophetic. It reveals how the head and body are joined in trust. Ephesians 5, verse 32. When that connection breaks down, the problem isn't physical. That's just where it's manifested. The true problem is spiritual disorder. And the answer isn't more duty or better technique. It's restoring the divine flow of interplay in the one-flesh relationship. If you've been told that sex is the proof of obedience, consider yourself invited to reject that lie. God never asked you to perform sexually. He asked you to walk in truth. A real covenant restores desire by restoring truth, because power can't create passion. Love does, and it starts with the head, not the body. Now, about these so-called good men. A good man, an Abraham type of husband, isn't perfect, but he's healthy. He doesn't use a woman's body to feel good about himself. A good man doesn't believe in extracting from a woman, so he would never say that sex just helps good men feel like men again. A truly good man, he wants to contribute his masculinity so her femininity can freely respond. He knows when he invests, she will respond. He might not understand how to do it, so he might not be that great at it, and he's got his own healing to do. But ultimately, that's why Sarah was willing to sacrifice herself for Abraham. He'd already been investing in her. A Nabal type of husband is something entirely different. He's the one who says things like, "You're making me miserable. You're cruel when you don't give me sex. You're emasculating me when you don't give me sex so I can feel like a man." That's not a wounded man or an emotionally unavailable one. That's a wicked one. It's a wolf who's using the thought processes of Christian traditions blended with red pill language. A wolf has no intention of investing in a woman. He hates femininity and sees it as a tool he can use, a place to extract from, not a person to cherish or care for or invest in. A wolf uses sex as a leverage. It's a resource he feels entitled to because he's male. Thank you for being here. If this content brought clarity to something you've been carrying, give it a moment and let it settle before you move on. I'd love for you to tap the like and subscribe buttons so more wives can hear what you just heard. In the next part, we're going to dismantle the accusation that has twisted feminine caution into coldness. Bye for now, and I'll see you in part 2.